Wake?
Tamoor, a couple weeks ago, we went to the dark place. And by that, I mean downtown Los Angeles. We played about 3 hours or so of Alan Wake 2. Do you want to set up what it is we played, which sections of the game, etc.?
Yeah, so we played 2 sections of the game. Usual preview caveats. It's a limited slice, likely created specifically for this demo environment. So although it is representative of what the game is, it also might not be representative of what the rest of the game is outside of it. So we played 2 parts. One part was dedicated to Saga Anderson. She's in Watery and she's on a mission to find the clicker. The other one is dedicated to Alan Wake, and he is in the dark place and he is just trying to live his life. He's just trying to thrive and survive, and it's not going well.
Aren't we all? I mean, let's start with Saga. So her third mission, the local girl, very much the small town vibe. The case leads her there and she's hunting down leads. And I think for me, what was interesting to get to grips with was the balance between the combat and the real psychological horror stuff, and then the mind place. Finding leads, fully going true detective, pinning stuff to a board. How did you find that?
Yeah, I found it was surprisingly good. The mind place where you go back and do all your investigative stuff, it's more of a very interactive menu, I guess. It has its own like little world that you jump in and out of, and it is being used extremely well. But functionally, that's what it kind of is. It serves as a place for you to go in and drop your information that you've gathered and connect leads and that kind of stuff. And I feel like it's a really good way of having that element in this world without having a situation where Saga has to keep going back to her hotel where her workstation is, or go to the local police department. And it's good because it kind of houses a lot of the theories as well and the weird stuff, so you can go back. And when I was playing it, I was just watching a lot of the character profile stuff, and it was really fascinating to get like a good grip of who these people are, but also Saga's current take on it. And it evolves over time. Like the longer I played, it was like add bits to the boards and to her understanding, and she would narrate updates in her mind and theorize. It's just a really cool space to jump in and out of, and it is seamless, instantaneous.
Yeah, I think the thing that I liked about it the most was that kind of element of being tactile. So if you think about Control, and there is a lot of things you can pick up around that game, but then going into a menu and just sort of reading endless emails and redacted notes and whatever, there's something really satisfying about getting presented with a picture or a piece of evidence or a note and then putting it on the board, and then it going green if you get all of the leads or something together and you kind of finished Saga's thought. We talked to Sam Lake, the creative director, about it when we were there, and I think he said like it was kind of indie because you are asking more of the player than just like simply following a lead. You're asking them to put things together. There's a section where, you know, the case takes Saga to Coffee World, which is possibly like the most remedy place I could imagine, a theme park based around coffee. And there was like a couple of puzzles to solve, and, you know, going into the mind place, following things on the board. I will say there was a point definitely where I got stuck on something, and it was just like, it kept telling me that I had something to put on the board. And by that point I was like, well, I don't really see where this goes. And so I just kind of pinned it to everything. I wonder if there's going to be any contingency for moments like that. And also, I don't know about you, but sometimes I would just finish a puzzle without putting it on the board, and then I'd have to go back and put everything on the board.
Yeah, I had that same kind of thing where it was like I'd done a bunch of things and then went back and it was already ready to like put on the board. But I wouldn't say that was like a problem. It was actually satisfying in another small way, which is like, oh, all this stuff is now being connected and I've already done the legwork on this. So it's there. I think like fundamentally the feeling of sticking stuff to the board and seeing the connections drawn is quite satisfying. So either way, you get something out of it. I did also have the situation where I was just like throwing darts at it and trying to figure out whatever it would fit in, and that is one of the situations where you do feel like a bit of an idiot when you're playing a FBI agent on a mission to find killers, and you're just like, I'll stick this hair, and hair. Does any of it work? But yeah, I'd be interested to see if they do have that contingency.
Let's talk a little bit about combat. I think going back, I replayed Alan Wake last year when it came out again, remastered, and I was like, this combat's pretty repetitive, man. Like, I'm just shooting the same guys. Didn't really feel like it didn't feel too tense, I think, at least the original Alan Wake, whereas this one, definitely, I felt every single encounter. I was kind of like not dreading in a bad way, but I was constantly thinking, like, how much ammo do I have? How much, like, can I run around this? Can I run away? How did you find it?
By their own admission to a degree, I think most people that just come to have like recognized that the combat in Alan Wake was basically a little gimmick thing that was stretched out over the course of multiple hours. It was interesting, the whole like disperse the darkness with the flashlight and then shoot them, but the pacing of it was very kind of contrasting to the actual tone of the rest of the game, and you'd go from these like tense moments into just like all out gunfire, and it was very, very weird pacing wise. It makes way more sense in this game. The way I described it in my preview, which you can read now on gamespot.com, is the systems that they've plucked out of Alan Wake 1 and moved over to Alan Wake 2 work better as a cohesive whole because of the shift to survival horror. The whole like using the flashlight to dissipate the shield, the darkness shield, it's a really cool way of kind of weakening an enemy that's bearing down on you. It reminds me of Resident Evil 4's bullet shot to the knee, which staggers enemies where they fall down. It's kind of got that same knockback effect as of that, and it's like a strategic consideration, but also one where you need to properly judge your spacing and also know that there's no one around you, so you're going to be vulnerable for a little bit. So that along with the dodge, which is like it's very similar to that, where he kind of ducks on, or she ducks under incoming enemies and that kind of stuff, especially melee attacks. It feels better here because you're kind of given an opportunity to reorient instead of constantly spam it and just get out of the way of everyone. So like I said, it just feels like a good connected series of systems now.
Saga stuff, because it is the small town, there is so much humor in there. I implore you, if you are going through the menu, look at all of the advertisements, like the live action stuff they filmed. Listen to the radio stuff, because some of it's really funny and then gets really, really messed up.
Gil, any thoughts on those crochet dog sweaters?
You need to stop.
What's that?
Just stop. Whatever this is you're doing, stop.
Well, I'm not sure I understand, Gil.
There's no such thing as Davis family beef jerky.
What you can do is you can use Artie's mop to swap between Alan and Saga. We weren't allowed to do that because I think they said it would break the build, but we did later play an Alan mission. It's our boy, he's stuck in the dark place. This one was room 665 was the name of the mission. Going to the Ocean View Hotel. If you played Control, that was the Ocean View Motel. And you got to use the angel lamp. So this was another new mechanic where it's like you capture light from one place and then you put it in another, and it kind of, I was using it to like unblock paths and stuff. It was a little tricky for me at first, but how did you find it?
Yeah, it's a kind of like puzzle mechanic that I expect will lean on multiple times throughout this game. But yeah, like you said, you can find a light source and capture it within this device and then move over to another area and then unleash it, and it should have some sort of impact on the world. I thought it was really, really cool in the way the effect, because it's instant. The moment you unleash it, like the world around you snaps into a different version of itself. Like there's geometry that changes, the vibe can change, lighting changes, and it's a really cool way to create a world that is like feels like it's constantly shifting. I think the issue that we had, or I definitely had, was like it was easy to miss a lot of the light sources that you think that you should have been able to capture from, because of, this is going to sound like a like embarrassment of riches, but like that game looks really nice. Like there's light sources everywhere. Everything looks really cool. But there are specific light sources that are, the ones that you need to grab and use, and it's essential to progress. I had one situation where I managed to bypass a light source and get pretty far into the level when I shouldn't have. And then I reached an impasse at some point where it was like, oh, at some point I missed the light source and now I have to backtrack and make sure and check every single one of them. So there's situations like that where, although it is creative, it's also very easy for people. It could also be very easy for people to like work themselves into a corner and not really know what they're supposed to be doing. Fundamentally though, I really like the idea, the kind of like transferring of light and using that as a way to change your environment, especially on the streets of the dark place. It was really cool to see like the world change, but inside the Ocean View Hotel especially, it was like a weird shining overlook situation where everything is, you can't trust what you see, and at a moment's notice everything could be upside down.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, really no joke when we say Shining references. I mean, there's a green bathtub. I was like, come on. But this is where we get to try rewrite reality. So Saga's got the case board in the mind place, Alan has his writer's room, and he basically has like a plot board. And so when you uncover like specific places or scenes or hear about different plot elements, so like when I was playing, he found out about a ritual, for example, through an echo that if you line up the echo, then you get to kind of have a little flashback moment. And then these all kind of go on his plot board, and then what you can do is mix and match them around, and you can change reality based on what he's written. Wild to think about how it came together, but there was a point where I was like, oh god, I think I'm going to struggle. I don't think this way. And then I was like, oh yeah, no, I get how to do this now. And it was really cool just to see the world change based on what I put together. And I really liked it. And this goes in for like puzzles as well, which is cool. And God help completionists, I guess, because I imagine there'll be a ton of stuff to find, but I really liked it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that aspect of rewriting. I think more than anything, I think it's just a really good representation of Alan as a writer. I think that was quite severely missing in the older game, where it's like you're constantly told he's a writer and best-selling author and that kind of stuff, and it doesn't really factor into his character beyond like some light kind of color in his like history and serving as like the premise for the overall weirdness. This feels more like it's a direct representation of who he is, because he is, writing things down, reworking it. He's like sitting at his typewriter. When you die, it does like this animation where it's like he's furiously typing on his typewriter to like rewrite what happened and bring himself back. And it's just, I feel like as a characterization mechanic as well, it's really good.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the tone is so drastically different between his and Saga's stuff. I mean, like when we talked to Sam about it, I was like, yeah, there's a very different tonal shift. How did you manage that? And he was like, wait, you didn't find some of the Alan stuff funny? And I was like, when you laugh at something, but you're actually secretly terrified? There was definitely a scene that we found in that level that I was like, oh my God.
Nervous laughter.
But it was really cool. And also, there's still combat in Alan's section, obviously, at least the part that we played, except at this time, it wasn't the Taken. It was just like these kind of shadows that sometimes would attack you and sometimes they wouldn't. Sometimes you'd just be walking around and they'd like clothesline you and knock you over.
Yeah.
So it kind of added to the tension, I thought. I really enjoyed it. I'm a big Stephen King fan. I'm reading House of Leaves at the moment. I'm a big Remedy fan, and this is ticking all the boxes for me.
Yeah, it is very, very, very Remedy as a game, and I think like after Control, they're in a really good spot, and barring any disasters, this is a very exciting look at one of the biggest games of the year. I'm desperate to play more of it. I think that was the biggest disappointing part of it, was like, I want to see what happens next, and also some of the connective tissue that got us here, but we'll have to wait until the game is out.
Yeah, and where can people find your preview?
You can go to GameSpot.com and check it out there. I'll also be tweeting about it and stuff. Just if you're Googling it, just type in Alan Wake 2 GameSpot and we'll probably pop up.
For more on Alan Wake 2, make sure to keep your eyes peeled to GameSpot.
Made it. I made it.